Yeah, dear friends, hearty best wishes to all wonderful women on International Women's Day. Really hats off to the contribution of each and every wonderful woman of this world. This video discusses a bit about women in India, history and present. So this video basically deals with thoughts for professional and personal growth of women on the occasion of this International Women's Day. Now, why separately discuss about women? Equality for women is progress for all. There is no tool for development more effective than empowerment of women. When you educate a man, you educate a person. But when you educate a woman, you educate a family and a generation. So that's the difference. That's why always women are considered or held in the highest esteem because they are the backbone of a family and they create a generation and educate and lead that generation. Now, March 8 is International Women's Day. Now, we should know why March 8 is celebrated as International Women's Day. Now, there are several explanations for that, but the most accepted of the explanations is that in 1914, International Women's Day was held on March 8 in Germany. Possibly because that day was the Sunday and most convenient for all, and now it is always held on March 8 in all countries. The 1914 observance of the day in Germany was dedicated to women's right to vote, which German women did not win until 1918. Actually, there were several such activism going on to ensure franchise right for women, and it was there in several other places also. But this one particular activism is considered as the starting point of regular celebration of International Women's Day on March 8. Now, coming to India, Indian women lack rights. Indian women lack basic facilities. Indian women do not get equal rights with men. This is what generally a perception is created. Indian women have to be educated on, Indians have to be educated on women rights. Indian thought process should change to the socialist or Western higher ideals. These are all the general voices being heard in several channels, in several social media, like as if these guys should educate us about how to treat women, how to educate women, how to change our thought process, which is outdated. Generally, you take any social media and you can see several persons trying to educate Indians, which is nothing short of amusing, actually. Now, let us see what is the reality behind this. Was it always like the same? Indian women lacked rights. Did women in India not enjoy equal rights? Were they always relegated to confines of kitchen or household? So let us see what was the status of women in India. Because no person can be confident who is cut off from own history. One who does not value one's own culture will not be valued by others too. There's one basic thing you need to keep in mind, my dear friends, while making fun of Indian culture, which is nothing short of cruelty and also hardcore foolishness. Let us see what was happening in around the world. In ancient Egypt, legally a woman shared the same rights and status as a man, but theoretically only, not practically. In ancient Athenian law, women lacked many of the legal rights given to their male counterparts. The laws of ancient Rome, like ancient Athens law, profoundly disfavored women. Roman citizenship was tired, and women could hold a form of second-class citizenship only. By law and custom, Muscovite Russia was a patriarchal society in which women were subordinate to men and youth to their elders. By 1500, Europe's customary laws favored men more than women. Ancient Irish laws generally portray patriarchal and patrilineal society. England granted voting rights to women citizens universally and regardless of marital status by passage of 1918 Representation of People Act that gave voting rights to women aged 30 years and above who met a property qualification. See how ridiculous it was. Only by 1918, franchise rights were given to women, and that too who met a property qualification. So that is the reality behind this Western facade. Now let us come to what was happening in India at that time. In India, for majority of history, and as you may all know, India has such a wonderful history spanning over thousands of years. You cannot compare any other country in this world with India. For majority of history, Indians used their legal code as a basis for their rights and customs, which was based on religious texts known as Dharma Shastras, which revered women and protected women's property rights as well as rights to inheritance. With centuries of continuous invasions and brutal colonization, only women were relegated to backyards and within confines also. It is not in Hindu culture, Indian culture, to demean a woman. How can you explain this many women deities, devis, regarded highly in entire Hindu scriptures? In which other religion can you show women being considered as devis, goddesses? Which other religion has goddesses like Hindu culture has? And you claim that you have to teach Hindus about and Indians about women rights? Is it not foolishness? Indian culture feeds the worship of women in all its divine powers. Durga, symbolic of strength. Lakshmi, endeavor of wealth. Saraswati, the divine bestower of knowledge. Women in India have had an impressive trajectory of profiles in courage, power, and astuteness. The brave Rani Lakshmi Bai to the sagacious Ahilya Bai, Indian women have never shied away from key roles in decision making. Just because you do not know about Indian queens, it doesn't mean that they didn't exist. It's because you are idiot and you are foolish that you do not know about brave Indian queens. You know only about invaders. It is because you are idiot. It is not because there were no Indian queens and kings who respected women. Try to learn history. Instead of wasting time on Facebook and Twitter, try to learn some history about India. And Women's Day, March 8 is one of the best days to start the same. Rani Rudramma succeeded her father when she was only 14 years old. And you would immediately tell that India had a child marriage. How can you explain Rani Rudramma being a queen when she was only 14 years old? Marco Polo, the Venetian traveler, of course, that is required. I deliberately added this because many of the guys in India and especially Kerala, no, they won't be satisfied when you say some Indian name. They want some foreign name. So for their conviction only, I've added Marco Polo. And he has actually told, you guys can be very happy. Marco Polo, the Venetian traveler who paid a visit during her rule, writes that she was a lover of justice, of equity and peace. So Marco Polo has said, it should be true. It is not told by Modi or some Indian person or even Indian scientists. It was told by Marco Polo. You people can believe it. So Rani Rudramma, Rani Durgavati, Mughal Emperor Akbar attacked Gondwana in 1564. Rani Durgavati led the battle against the invading army. But ultimately, when her defeat became imminent, she killed herself, choosing death to dishonor. That was the bravery of Indian women. And I am 100% sure no one of you might have heard about Rani Durgavati. Devi Ahilya Bai Holkar, Queen of Malwa. She ruled with utmost compassion and pride. During her time, the region prospered and scaled many new heights. She is often cited as the philosopher queen and an absolute ideal ruler. She even personally led armies into battle as a tribute. Indoors, domestic airport and university are named after her. Kittur Rani Chennamma, her husband died in 1816, leaving behind a son who passed away in 1824. When Rani Chennamma adopted Shivalingappa as her son and made him heir to the throne, the British did not accept it. Following a battle to defend her kingdom, she was taken captive and lodged in Belhongal fort, where she breathed her last in 1829. Rani Lakshmi Bai, maybe the only Indian queen that you might have heard of, because you are not at all bothered about history and you are bothered about getting marks in history. And by luck, this one name was included in Indian history, which is completely biased against India and Indian culture. The history that is taught in India, similar history is never taught anywhere in the world. Every country tries to highlight its own history, its own culture. It's only India, with its pervert secularism, tries to demean its own culture. And over a period of time, it has come to such an extent that whenever you talk about Hinduism and something that has actually happened, you are deemed a communal. So you should know what is the truth. When both her husband and her son died, she adopted a child to make him the heir to the throne. And there are rumors that her husband and her son were actually killed by British. They just did not die in normal way. They were actually killed by the British to annex her kingdom. And this kind of brutalities and atrocities were committed against our country, and nobody is bothered about that. Except that the facade that they show in form of DP in WhatsApp and all on August 15, showing an Indian flag and all. Do you really care for the culture of our country? If you really care for the culture, try to understand the history. Don't just blame Hinduism, telling about something that you have read in books or something that you are fed by the biased social media. The then British Governor General Lord Dalhousie refused to recognize the adoption and ordered annexation of Jhansi. She was mortally wounded at Gwalior and died in June 1858. Rani Avanti Bai, her husband died with no heir to the throne. When the British annexed her kingdom, Avanti Bai vowed to win her land from the British. She raised an army of 4,000 men and led it herself against the British in 1857. She killed herself at the end of a fierce battle when she could no longer hold out against the British. Chand Bibi, known as Chand Khatun or Chand Sultana, she was daughter of Hussain Nizam Shah I of Ahmednagar. When Ahmednagar was invaded by the Mughals, she defended it successfully. In 1599, the force of Akbar once again laid siege to the Ahmednagar fort. When she tried to negotiate terms with Mughals, she was killed by her own troops who misunderstood her. Rani Abbakka Chowta, Tuluva Queen, regarded as the first female freedom fighter of India, fearless queen. Though she is regarded as first female freedom fighter in India, I am 100% sure majority of Indians do not know this name. Before the British came to set East India Company, it was the Portuguese who as well came to capture several parts of India. Queen Abbakka defended her kingdom Ullal for more than 40 years. She was one of the earliest Indians to fight the colonial powers. Rani Padmavati, Queen of Chittor, defended Rajput pride and self-immolated when Alauddin Khilji wanted to capture her. There are so many stories of her beauty and courage that you could write a book on her. Tarabai, Maratha Empire, defended Maratha Empire against Mughals. The widowed queen was brought to the forefront when her husband Rajaram Bhosle died. She was a genius strategist with immense political acumen. Velu Nachiyar, Queen of Shivaganga Estate, first South Indian queen to fight against East India Company of British, aptly named Veeramangai, which translates into brave women. She successfully fought British by forming an alliance with nearby kings of princely states. Legend has it that the British never came back to conquer her kingdom while she ruled. Such was her bravery. Such is the bravery of Indian women. Onake Obawa. Obawa was neither a queen nor a princess. In fact, she was wife of a common guard at Chitradurga fort. It was around that time that Hyder Ali was repeatedly trying to conquer the fort but failed. He noticed Obawa entering the fort through a hole once and ordered his men to do the same. Taking matters into her own hands, she guarded the crevice. She used a long wooden club called Onake, meant for pounding paddy grains, to kill the trespassers, one by hitting them on head. When her husband, Mudra Hanuma, returned from lunch, she was shocked to see Obawa standing with a blood-stained Onake and over 100 dead enemies. And you want to teach Indian women about bravery and rights. There are several other wonderful women, brave women of India: Yashovati, Sugandha, Prithvi Mahadevi, Dharma Mahadevi, Prabhavati Gupta, Vijay Mahadevi. Several women of Chalukya dynasty, Solanki dynasty, and many more great women around the throne of our great land, and motivated, guided, and led millions. This is women empowerment of India. Coming to Vedic period, because this is most misunderstood, misinterpreted, and manipulated. Always when you talk about Vedic period, some Manusmriti comes up. People don't know anything about Manusmriti and just go about bashing Manusmriti. First understand what it was actually. Simply by knowing 4 lines, which was taught to you by communal people who were in power in India after its independence in 1947. We just go on talking about demeaning Vedas without even knowing what it is. Maitreyi was an Indian philosopher who lived during the later Vedic period in ancient India. She is mentioned in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Gargi Vachaknavi was an ancient Indian philosopher. In Vedic literature, she is honored as a great natural philosopher, renowned expounder of Vedas, and known as Brahmavadini, a person with knowledge of Brahma Vidya. That is Indian culture. Nobody prevented women from learning here. It's only because of the perversions that crept in because of the invasions that the status of women came down in India. It's not a part of Indian culture. Don't be an idiot. Don't be foolish to say that Hinduism degraded women. Even now, look around. How many temples of goddesses are there? Can you show such temples dedicated to goddesses, this many, in any other religion? If you don't know anything, just shut up. Don't go about talking stupidity. Brahmavadini, or an expounder of Veda, are those women who composed any hymns of Vedas. Prominent among them were Lobamudra, Vishwavara, Sikta, Ghosha, Maitreyi. 2 suktas or hymns of 10th mandala or book of Rigveda, 39 and 40, each containing 14 verses, have been attributed to Ghosha, a prominent Brahmavadini, expounder of Vedas. Then there is Swayamvara for princes, ultimate right to women to choose their life partner. Men had to accept their decision, whoever he may be. How many examples can you show from other parts of the world which are comparable with these examples of India? Know your culture and the heinous agenda of self-serving groups to make you hate your own culture, because they don't want India to be a superpower. They want India and Indians to have a feeling that they are independent, but having invisible control by these nefarious persons. They want India to remain an undeveloped country and to remain as a market for their products. And along with that, several persons want to convert India to their religion. That's another category of a foolish, idiot, and very dangerous kind of persons who are of no use to the world as such. They want Hindus to be converted to other religion. They are also there to make you hate your own culture. You should understand, dear friends, if it was not there, if in reality this culture did not have these kind of achievements, one could have actually left it at that. But this is such a culture which entire world respects. You have to recognize your own culture, and this is the best day for that. International Women's Day, March 8, 2021. Let this be a new beginning in your life. The Rigveda considers that wife is the foundation of the home. During the Vedic age, more than 3,000 years ago, women were assigned a high place in society. They shared an equal standing with their menfolk and enjoyed a kind of liberty that actually had societal sanction. Initial Hindu philosophical concept of Shakti, the feminine principle of energy, was also a product of this age. This took the form of worship of female idols and or goddesses. Mention of female scholars and sages of Vedic age, like Ramasa, Gargi, Khona, in the Vedic law, corroborates this view. These highly intelligent and greatly learned women who choose the path of Vedic studies were called Brahmavadinis. Co-education had existed during this period. Both sexes got equal attention from the teacher. Ladies from Kshatriya caste received martial arts courses and arms training. As in present, after marriage, the girl became a grihini, was considered ardhangini or one half of her husband's being. See what a wonderful culture it is. No other culture gives this kind of elated status to women. Both of them were constituted griha, the husband and wife. She was considered as Samrajni, the queen or mistress, and had an equal share in performance of religious rites. Divorce and remarriage were allowed. This was Indian culture at that time, so advanced. And you claim that Hinduism is an outdated concept? Many idiots tell that. This is the reality. Try to understand, try to spend some time to know the real history, not the history mentioned in your waste history textbook. If a woman lost her husband, she was not forced to undergo merciless practices that cropped up in later years. Never sati was part of Hindu culture. Whatever you say, sati was not part of Hindu culture. She was not compelled to tonsure her head, nor was forced to wear red sari and commit sahagamana or dying in funeral pyre of dead husband. If they chose to, they could live a life of sannyasin or hermit after the husband passed away. Only if they chose to. Otherwise, remarriage was allowed. Just because your pervert mind will not process this, it doesn't mean that this is not reality. This is the reality. Sati and such nefarious practices crept up only due to perversions that crept into the religion or that were deliberately made to creep into the religion. Once invaders came here because they didn't want Hindu culture to stand on its foot. They wanted people to hate their own culture and convert them to their religion. How did the position of women become lower to men in our society over a period of time, which the various people now highlight only due to foreign invasions? It was not in Indian culture to demean a woman. Woman was and is the backbone of a family and society as per our culture. Understand, recognize it, manifest it, be the role models for entire world. So-called sati, child marriage, etc. crept due to foreign cultures, foreign invasions, to protect from uncouth barbarians who came to our holy land and used to view women as objects, irrespective of their age or relation. Not even children were spared by these barbarians. And instead of respecting your own culture and priding in your own culture, you are taught in history about this barbarians that they built this and they built that. We were made to write about around 1.5 pages of utter foolishness about the way they created changes in society and all. Utter stupidity. Sati came only because our brave women preferred death to slavery under barbaric invaders. That is why Rajput women who are brave created this fire and jumped into that. They preferred death to living as slaves of these barbarians who without any reason came to our land and attacked us, and through cunning and unholy means captured several areas of our land, invaded us, destroyed our culture. Our libraries, which contain such scientific scriptures, were just burnt by these barbarians who couldn't understand what it was. And still, several people go on saying that Indian culture is unscientific. Child marriage came because parents had to protect a girl child, and child had to be born as soon as possible so that assets are not taken away by colonial goons or barbaric invaders. It's only later, due to continuous suppression and destruction of culture, that these became meaningless and dangerous malpractices. And as I mentioned earlier, these were deliberately planned and made part of Hindu culture so that people hate their own culture, which were carried out without knowing their meaning or purpose. It's not the fault of our culture. Now think, why is this not taught us? Why are our history books filled with names of invaders and religion fanatics like Babur, Shah Jahan, Akbar, Ghori, Humayun, Tipu, Hyder Ali, etc., while Indian kings and queens were conveniently forgotten? Why are we taught that our culture rooted in Hindu traditions, which is undoubtedly the world leader even today in its scientific and value-based contents, Why are we told that it is outdated? Even NASA use Sanskrit. They use our Vedic scriptures, while the fools in India do not study even Bhagavad Gita. When someone talks about Gita, they deem it as communal. While all other religions can give their religion teachings, only Hindus cannot give religion teachings in our holy land. So friends, kindly understand that women were always respected and held in highest esteem in our culture. Coming to present scenario, women today have scaled great heights. They know that striking a right balance between personal life and career is a challenge, and they have learned to conquer it with grace. There are innumerous examples in India now. And our own respected Union Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman is one such glorious example, performing her duty wonderfully as the Finance Minister of the country. Moving on to how women can plan their career, especially young women can plan their career to be employable or be hired for projects. Women, just like men, need to keep themselves updated with relevant knowledge, whether or not they have opted for a career break. There are various ways to do that. Continuous reading and learning. Dear friends, please understand that it is not beauty that is your main weapon. It is knowledge and learning that is the main weapon of women. You can always take up teaching, writing assignments. Network the traditional way. It helps to it helps you to stay connected. Use social media positively rather than simply wasting time on forwarding irrelevant posts. You can use that positively. Like for example, CA Reema Singh regularly posted in Women Entrepreneur Network on Facebook called HEN, her entrepreneurial network with over 2,500 members. She would answer questions pertaining to tax and regulatory matters. Jenny, another group member, found her answers useful and signed up as CA Reema's first client. 5 years after this, Reema was successful enough to scale her practice and hire a couple of CAs as employees. Create a personal business model. CA Kritika, a teacher at a college, was asked to do a PhD and join full-time. Why I am telling examples of CAs? Because myself, being a chartered accountant, I'm just highlighting example of women CAs. Kritika decided against this and accepted 2 or 3 teaching assignments in a couple of colleges, and alongside started to take part-time jobs in startups, where she took an equity stake but no cash flow. She started by spending half a day a week to help companies with their finance. In this way, she created an opportunity for her own venture, initially as a proprietor with the intention that once she was ready to spend more time at work, she would create her own company with other directors. Think entrepreneurially. Think of starting a venture. Focus on consistent quality of output instead of quantity of time available. There is no shortcut to hard work, done systematically and with sincerity. And there is no difference between a man and a woman. Other areas of concern that women need to keep in mind is their safety and security. There are various ways to deal with this. When asked to meet a potential new client, a woman can always take another friend who may or may not be from same profession to the meeting. The meetings can be scheduled during daytime. Again, coming to example of a woman CA who successfully scaled her practice, CA Julia, working on project-based assignments from her home, was asked to meet a potential client from SatTech Private Limited at this office. Again, the names have been changed. Julia requested Hema, her engineer friend, to join for the meeting. At SatTech, Hema was introduced as a network partner. Hema also provided some technical inputs to Julia. The project report prepared by Julia had a section which covered the industry with his inputs provided by Hema. The report was highly appreciated for their attention to industry detail. Julia also shared a percentage of revenue with Hema for her contribution. Thus, Julia innovatively converted what many would see as a disadvantage into an advantage. CS Seema, another example, accepted meeting appointments only between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. These are all practical examples of keeping in mind the safety, security aspect and moving ahead in career also. Clients who signed up knew this, that she accepted appointments only between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Those who did not like this did not sign up. She thus had to pay a price for not being flexible at the beginning. She did not get too many assignments. However, she continued with the limited assignments for around 4 years, building valuable experience and keeping in touch with professional work. Post this, she partnered with 3 others, including 2 men. Hence, this issue of work hours became irrelevant after this 4-year period. These are all practical examples to overcome certain issues. Women members, based on their area of interest and expertise, can pick the roles that they are capable of delivering, such as part-time CFO. Benefits from diversity in viewpoint that women bring to decision table are innumerous, and people recognize it now. So to conclude, dear friends, only a man who respects women is a civilized person. This every boy and man should keep in mind. No society can progress and prosper if women there don't enjoy freedom and respect. Gender must never bring disadvantage to any person, and it should not also, because if you are taught at the very tender age the stories of these queens who were actually there in India, then you need not take classes about women empowerment to boys, how to behave with women to boys, because they would naturally know that women also were in position of power. Why are you not taught this in your right from your lower primary classes itself? Just think how you are being manipulated. This is a brainwashed republic. You should not become a brainwashed person. Understand that our culture always considers women as equal to men, and in fact only our culture considered women equal to men. Historically it is proven. Just like all fingers are needed for the hand to function efficiently, organizations can benefit from having a diverse set of persons associated with them in different roles. Each finger, the thumb, index, middle, ring, little finger, has a role to play. Together the hand is strong. Men and women make this world beautiful. Both are equal, needed, and strong. So best wishes on International Women's Day, this 8th March 2021, especially to all the wonderful women of this world who make it a real heaven on earth. Thanks for being there for all of us, and be assured that we will always be there for you too. Together, let us make our country great again and ensure a happy and peaceful world too. Thank you, dear friends.